one of the James A. Jacobs, who is going to talk to us a little bit more about some long-term goals.
James is here. I thought Jim was going to roll that out.
Yes.
Correct, Jim?
Can I turn it to you, James, to talk a little bit about what you had kindly offered to talk about?
I think while this is Lori, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I think while we're waiting for James to get Jim's notes, I'll just answer this question that I'm trying to type an answer to in the chat box. And James, go ahead and just interrupt me whenever you're ready. So the question that I was trying to answer is the data sets as a separate issue from the Archive.it stuff. The stuff that's going into Internet Archive is for the work of Data Refuge has been separate. So we're moving things into Internet Archive, but we're also moving data sets specifically into Data Refuge. And there was a question about this notion of lots of copies keep stuff safe in Data Refuge. And the answer is that it's it's been a really founding impulse of that project. And so, but at this point, I think we're looking to phase 2 of the kind of Data Refuge project to have lots of libraries making moving data into their own repositories or into a structure that we've begun to talk with a bunch of collaborators about, and that I hope we're going to talk more about in future calls or future conversations about building a network for that kind of safe refuge for data in our libraries, federal information in our libraries. But right now, the approach that we're talking about here is like the Archive.it, and then for folks to take a chunk of the federal information and sort of move it into whatever systems they have locally that would hold it. Certainly the Data Refuge project, which is focused on environmental and climate data, is going to have copies of the environmental and climate data to the extent that we possibly can. And we will duplicate those across servers and that sort of thing, but unlike backup. But I think the effort of cross libraries that we're talking about within this collaboration, ideally right now in this first phase would involve just moving data into would just be moving data into into local systems. There's a question about locks. I'm really hoping that Morris or someone else is going to talk about that. But if not on this call, I can only say that it's a conversation that we're beginning and that I'm really excited to see continue. But I'm going to see, is James, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. All right, Lori out.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, and sorry for the hold up, and thanks, Jim, for your notes. So I think what Jim and I were talking about when this email came through and the webinar idea came through was looking more forward to some longer term goals that we could maybe talk about and adopt in order to give some context and some ideals and some goals to what we're doing here or what we're hoping that folks will help us do. So I think these are goals that could be adopted today without interfering with what Data Refuge is doing or what you're asking libraries to do today. But they may also help attract libraries to participate, and they'll make long-term participation easier and more effective, I think. So the two goals that we've been mulling about, both of them give a context and a direction to these archiving preservation activities, and they'll help participants understand where their activities lead and what the outcomes will be and what benefits they'll get from the investment today of their resources in these activities. Both of these goals contain language from OAIS and TDR, which is the Trusted Digital Repositories. These are both international standards for long-term preservation and certification. And this will assure participants that our actions today will ensure long-term access to the information and the data that we're gathering. The first goal says that we're gathering content today in order to provide it and the services for it to specific user groups. In OAIS parlance, they're called designated communities, or DCs. It puts the emphasis on the users of the information and helps us demonstrate to our local communities that we're doing this for them. And it also shows that libraries that participate in these activities, that their local and institutional user communities will get more long-term benefits with libraries' participation than they would get if they didn't participate. The second goal is a longer-term goal, if you will. So first, maybe a medium term and then a longer term. It recognizes that crawling and scraping information off of websites is inefficient, as noted earlier in one of those slides. It's often ineffective and for many kinds of content, impossible. The goal proposes a concerted lobbying effort to get the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, to adopt a government-wide policy requiring all federal government agencies to have information management plans. I know this sounds kind of like utter jargon, but information management plan sort of falls within a concept that data management has already done. So the government already requires researchers who receive federal grants from NSF and other granting agencies to have a data management plan to ensure the long-term availability of the data that they gather in the research process. So a government information management plan or policy would in a similar way require government agencies to guarantee the long-term preservation of information that they gather and create and produce and publish. It doesn't say that they necessarily will have to preserve what they produce, but they need to facilitate the preservation. And this will feed into other long-term projects that have been going on, for example, GPO, and the idea of a union catalog of all government information. And so, yeah, I think that's what Jim and I were thinking about, and hope that feeds into what y'all are talking about today.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Audio out.
Well, I think we have a lot of expertise on the call here, so we'd like to open it up for people to questions, to make suggestions, to help us clarify what actions we can take in the short and medium and long term. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of work going on, and people are asking other people already in the office to talk. So we'll see if we can get some people on this call to chat. Oh, yay. Okay, so Morris York is going to chat with us. And yeah, it's working great.
Awesome. Yeah, so just on the questions about locks and about a larger sort of structured way to capture data and preserve it and so forth. And so was at the Data Refuge event in New York City this weekend with Jen Green, and was talking with Tom Kramer and a few other folks, and basically was spinning up basically how could we create a technical infrastructure that could do this quickly, cheaply. It needs some more development and a few more really smart people working on it, but we can sort of whiteboard it out, and we can see a way that we could start up a quick preservation network. And then the question has become between the capturing that's going on right now, which are these one-time snapshots, and as we talked about, is like, how do you turn that into sustainable capture of the data constantly being generated by the agencies? How do we propagate that, replicate it, and protect it as a sustainable long-term solution? And I think really it works into those two goals there, creating the digitally enhanced government info library infrastructure. That's what we need to do. And then this longer term goal of getting ARL to advocate for a government-wide policy. So I guess this is just to say that some brainstorming has started there. We're going to start a little bit of a email thread. We got to get some more of our technical people in here to figure out if it's locks, if it's something else. How might we go about that? But as we start to get a more concrete idea of how we can start to create a a storage network and ingest that information. A big part of this would be, or the concept was trying to maybe create a hosted registry of, building off the work of the spreadsheet, the kind of workflow that goes into tracking what state of, one time the snapshot capture is for various sites, building that into possibly some sort of registry that is a little more advanced than a Google spreadsheet, so that we can create a sort of a sustainable infrastructure around that as well. So just to say, there's a few things in the hoppers brainstorming, and you'll probably see more about that as we start some threads about that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Lori is chomping at the bit to say something. Surprising, isn't it?
No one's surprised who knows me. No, thank you. It was really exciting to meet Morris and Jen and think through that work together with them on Saturday, and I'm so excited about all of this energy. I wanted to just sort of chime in a little bit. I'm sitting here with my colleagues Bethany and Margaret, the three of us have been. Bethany is faculty in the director for the program in environmental humanities, and I wanted to mention a couple things. One, and sort of which directs the Data Refuge project. So I wanted to be clear about. I also am really hopeful. I'm so excited about this possibility that libraries will really sort of ramp up our efforts in this area, which have been ongoing. But I also think it's that these data rescue events, these events that we've been having, and the collaborations that have been forming between faculty and librarians and developers and city agencies and communities where data is used, who are affected by these data, and then sort of moving out city agencies and faculty researchers and librarians and developers from outside of the library community, and that sort of continuum of people engaging in the data rescue project, I think in addition to obviously the political climate right now, which is really activating a lot of people, I want to call attention to that collaboration, which I think I'm really hopeful we can continue to think about that kind of collaboration in this more sort of systematic and this systematic approach, which I hope will take advantage of all of the amazing work that's been happening within libraries and within our larger communities and professional organizations, which, as we all know, have been approaching this problem for many years. So I guess I just want to put a little plug in for the kind of really interdisciplinary collaboration that inspired this project particularly, and I think the political moment caused that collaboration, and it's that collaboration that affords us the ability to really think about getting this moving much more quickly than we otherwise perhaps might have. So I just wanted to throw that out as and also, like, in case any of you are thinking, we'll do this instead of a data rescue event or instead of a data refuge event. So much of what happens at these big events, which are a pain to plan and a lot of work, is a really deep, amazing opportunity to do data literacy. And in the case of the Data Refuge project, environmental and climate data literacy. And that is, I think, really, I don't want to state how important that is as a part of the work that we do. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lori. Is there anybody else? I'm cognizant of the time. We're at 12:47, so we're 2 minutes over budget, but we do want to hang out on the line for anybody who wants to chat a little bit more. We need to figure out some next steps going forward. I certainly need to read through the chat and see it. And I know we've got our colleagues from ARL here. I think there are some people from End of Term Harvest or Internet Archive. If you'd like to say anything to muddy the waters or clarify things, that would be great. Abby, I got your microphone on. Is that okay?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Hi, just wanted to say happy to see you all organizing around this, and hopefully we can continue to coordinate and try to figure out how there are intersections and how we can all work together in the future. And I had an earlier chat message. I know Internet Archive isn't here today. They weren't able to join, but I do think it would be wise before everybody starts collecting with their own Archivit accounts to try to talk to the Archivit folks first, because I know they set up a small account for some of the end of term partners to collect together rather than separately. So that might be something you want to chat with them about before pursuing collecting in your own separate accounts. I'm not sure how that would work out, but they've done a lot of collaborative web archives, so I think they'd be willing to talk about that.
Thank you so much. We will definitely follow up on that.
This is Jim Del Rosso from Cornell University Catherwood Library. And I put it in chat that we, since December, have been working with a third-party nonprofit who came to us with an opportunity to collect a lot of material from the Department of Labor website if we would store it. And so that partnership is seeming to go well. They were collecting right up until the 20th of January, are in the process of moving that to some storage that we have. So I'm looking forward to see how our efforts can coordinate with this one to, reduce duplication, but we gonna have a lot of data to go through and then figure out what to do with that. But it's great to be a part of this and great to hear so many people are interested in this effort. Yeah, I can tell you the name of the group because they've actually put some stuff on the website. It's called coworker.org. It's a labor nonprofit.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to turn off the recording. We're going to hang on here for any